Hi, Anna. It's so nice to meet with you. I know that we have so much in common talking about, both being in the femtech space. So, can you just give
Mm.
us a quick intro about who you are and what you
Yeah.
do?
I am Anna Sneed. I am one half of the Agenda Period. We are a cycle syncing period app that teaches you how to sync your whole life with your cycle and just level up in every way possible.
So Anna's app also carries Rift Care, and if some of you don't know, my name is Valerie Manuel. I'm one half of the period care brand Rift Care. We make organic and biodegradable products out of hemp fiber, and we are super into cycle syncing because we're very much into natural living. I think it's really important to have clean products and just kind of know what's going on with you. So we connected, and you actually brought to light an article. There was a recent study that was done, and there was some really interesting information in there just talking about women going into perimenopause earlier than they think in their early 30s and late 30s, with symptoms being shown in 50% of the participants, 50% of women in their 30s. In case you don't know what perimenopause is, it's that period of months or years before you actually hit menopause where your body starts to experience some physical changes and also some emotional and mental changes. But a lot of women in this time are still fertile, you're still having your period. So it's not exactly menopause, but you know that your cycle has changed from like teenage and even 20 something years.
We think that menopause is all the hot flashes and everything else, but it's truly perimenopause, and your body, dumping estrogen at the beginning and then it's slowly tapering off. And that's why you see a lot of women who are older when they have children end up having multiples because their body's like dumping eggs each month. And
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Can you
yeah.
tell us some of the actual symptoms of menopause just so that
Oh my
people know
gosh.
what to look out for? Because these are the ones that luckily I knew about them. Otherwise, I would
Yeah.
not have known what was going on with me.
Oh my gosh. So as we were updating our app, I was like, I want women to be able to choose from every perimenopausal symptom so they can identify it early. And our dev team was like, we can't fit 150 symptoms on a scroller ball.
150.
It's at least.
Yeah.
Yes, that could be perimenopausal. And it's things that one of I'll list some of the bizarre ones. The formication, which I never even knew that was a word. It feels like bugs are crawling on you. Like I'd be cooking dinner and think that something ran across my foot. It was that heavy of a sensation, and there'd be nothing there. Um, Another one is phantom smells. Like you'll smell like something's burning, or you'll smell, something that's not there. You will smell those. Um, there's a lot of like bizarre ones, and then on top of insomnia is a very common one, like waking up in the middle of the night with racing thoughts. One that's affecting a lot of my friends. Everyone who grew up in the 80s is experiencing these things now, where like panic attacks and anxiety, like waking up with this overwhelming sense, and out of people who haven't normally felt that way. And charting and tracking and knowing, okay, this happens like day 24 every month.
Hmm.
That was like key indicator. Oh, that must be hormonal, which if you're late 30s, early 40s, it's most likely perimenopause.
I know
Mm.
that we've both gone through this, and I just want to know, like, what was your personal experience when you were going through this?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't realize that this is what was happening with me, because let's just start with nobody talks about perimenopause. They're like, okay, you're going to start your period. It's going to suck. Get over it. Every woman experiences it. Then you're going to have hot flashes and grow a beard, and then your period won't come anymore. Like that's all they tell us. I never knew about this like 15-year time span where your hormones are just kind of hijacking you. And so I was on a networking call with some women, and we're all different stages in life. And I just kept saying, my cycles are getting shorter, like they're 26 days or 24 days. And someone was like, how old are you? And I was like, at the time, I was like, I'm 44. They were like, okay, have you been noticing? And they start listing all these other symptoms. And I'm like, yes. And I just sat there and I was like, am I in perimenopause? It was like literally a light bulb moment for me.
And
And
how long had that been happening before you even noticed it? Like, how many months or years?
I started tracking. So for at least a year since I'd started tracking my symptoms in the app, I can, recall like it's been a year that I've been saying, it feels like bugs are crawling on me, or I keep hitting the doorway when I walk through, or I'm like fuzzy brained. And the big thing was like kind of going internal into myself. And so I'd noticed that for a few years now, actually, and it didn't dawn on me that it could be perimenopause. I just thought something was wrong with me. How
Yeah.
about you?
Oh gosh. So I kind of went through a really weird journey with my cycle. It was when I was maybe 29 years old, I started getting really bad PMS. And then 2 years later, one of my friends told me that I had PMDD. But there was some point in between that where I got on birth control and then I got off of birth control. But I got on a really specific birth control that was called Centramin because I have a horrible reaction to estrogen birth control, so I can't get on it. I had a blood clot, like almost lost my
Oh,
leg when I was 18 years old, and then progestin makes me feel crazy. So I was like, I'll try this other one called Centramin. And I basically started going into menopause at like the age of 32, 33 from this birth control,
oh my
like hot
gosh.
flashes, weight gain, body hair, like every single menopausal symptom. And then when I got off of it, my body had to basically adjust and go back, but my hormones were still out of whack. And I'm someone whose hormones have kind of been out of whack since I had my daughter. I'm 34 years old. I had her when I was 24 years old. And
Mm,
so, especially with me getting, in between all of this, the PMDD diagnosis and like really wanting to fix that, I was like, look, I need to do something because I feel like this is all kind of related. And even though the perimenopause was medication related, I still had to kind of reverse and like get out of this hole that I found myself in.
oh my
And
gosh.
gosh, it was difficult. I just remember being like, is this how it's going to be one day? And then it's just going to be like this for like 5 or 6 years. And then it's just all going to stop and then it's going to go downhill. But
Menopause is actually like one day. Once
yeah.
you've hit like day 366 of that year with no period, you're now, that was your menopause day, and then you're postmenopausal.
And the horrible thing I think about also having PMDD is PMDD has some of these symptoms, and then the rest of the month you are completely normal. So just putting that out there because I know there are a lot of people who have hormonal imbalances, or even people who have different, women who are neurodivergent also have that, I realized.
Hmm.
So I realize a lot of people with like anxiety, depression. For me, I do have ADD. So it's something with the GABA receptors and the GABA receptors being affected by everything else. And then you're having this horrible symptoms, but it's actually PMDD.
Yes. And like all of a sudden having new allergies to things that
Hmm.
you weren't allergic to before. I got a whole list of things from an allergen because I broke out in hives one time. And I was like, I don't have allergies. And so I did this whole battery of tests, and the doctor comes back and she's like, so I'm sure you already know this, but you're like allergic to everything. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not allergic to anything. I've done allergy testing before.
Ones I
Yeah.
didn't even know about. I know a few other ones are um, a few other ones that people go through are sexual problems. Like some people completely
Hmm.
lose their sexual appetite or their libido. I know some people also have vaginal dryness, which is a serious issue, and then bladder problems. So as many of these issues can be physical, they can also be emotional. Yeah, and then you
And
know
if
where you
it's
are.
new to you, that's a big signal. So
Yeah.
if these are new symptoms to you, then yeah, if your libido was always fine and then it drops off, if you're starting to feel like joint stiff pains at night, that's a new thing. Being super irritable when you weren't before. Those are all indicators that yeah, something's different if it's new to you.
One of the most shocking statistics that I found was that 55% of women between the age of 30 and 40 were experiencing some of these symptoms that were mild to severe of perimenopause. That's a huge number. It's like half of my friends.
And at that age, like that's something that I mean, it sounds bizarre. It sounds shocking and jarring, just like you said. And like half of your friends are experiencing this. And this is the time that a lot of women are deciding to settle down and have children and things like that. And wait, it's about to be over? The show's about to be over? Like, what do you mean?
Even though a lot of these girls are still fertile and like able to have children. It just kind of changes the trajectory of everything. There was also
Definitely.
another part of the study that said that 65% of women between the ages of 36 to 40, so as you get later into your 30s, that's when you start to experience more. And I think it makes sense. Like as your egg counts are going down, you start to experience more of those symptoms.
It's that big dump of estrogen that happens, and then once it starts tapering off, and it's kind of like it feels like revving an engine and backing off the gas, revving and backing off the gas, and we're kind of shaken up by this. And so this is a time that a lot of women exit the workforce. They're less reliable in their mind. They think that they're less reliable because their brain is starting to shift and focus things differently. They are putting up with a lot less than they would before, and so yeah, there's been a big loss of of educational capital, or when women in their late 40s, mid 50s, they exit the workforce because they're not young and fresh, but they're taking with them all of their wisdom and experience, because they just don't have the proper supports.
You mentioned something before about the estrogen dump that happens during the perimenopausal period. I've
Yeah.
never heard of this. Please just
Yeah.
explain a little bit more.
Yes. So at the beginning, your body's producing more. It's like, okay, come on. The clock is running out. Let's try to make these babies happen, because that's just kind of we're animals. That's what we're here to do. And so yes, you can dump extra eggs each month. And I know a lot of women that I've known that have had multiples were later in life babies, like 42, 45, 48-year old women. They end up with multiples because they've got two eggs down there that got
Yeah.
fertilized. And so our cycles are coming a lot quicker. And since I'm tracking, I knew that last year, there's 12 months in a year, but I had 14 or 15 cycles last year. So that is more than one a month, because my cycles were getting shorter. And then once that estrogen dump kind of tapers off, then they'll get further and further apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's just a box of sunshine. This.
A box of sunshine. Well, I know that all this is happening, but health and wellness is so important to both of us, especially with you
Mhm.
being the founder of Agenda and all of the tips and tricks you have in there. So, what is something that you think people can start to do when they recognize these symptoms?
I think the main thing that you can do is track, like data, data, data. Walking into your gyno, your PCP, with a wealth of knowledge in your hand, with the correct verbiage and a history of what's been going on with you, is going to better suit them, equip them to support these symptoms that you're having, and knowing what's going on and having that, because I mean, we're all really busy. Not one woman I know who's perimenopausal only has one hat that she wears during the day. And so if we don't write it down, it doesn't happen. So track, 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 whether it's in a journal, whether it's in a pretty cool app. Just make sure that you're writing down your symptoms.
One thing that I did when this started happening to me was I was informing my gynecologist, even though they weren't really doing anything about it. I just would always send messages in the app of what was happening. And then I did start to supplement. Like for me, that was something that was
Mm,
really important. And then I started to get more in tune with my cycle, because when I was on that birth control, I was still having my cycle every single month. It wasn't like a, withdrawal or placebo week. It's a very different type of birth control that I was
oh.
taking. But
Hmm.
at the same time, I still knew that my body was off from what it was doing before. So I think cycle syncing to me was really important because, like you said, the tracking and just being more in tune with even my everyday symptoms, not just your period symptoms, but the everyday symptoms that you have week to week. That was
Yeah.
super important for me.
I love that. Yes, because it's all connected. Our brain health is so closely tied to our reproductive health, and vice versa. So, yeah, all the symptoms, track them all.
Yeah.
Your mood, your energy. Yes. Yeah.
And one of my last questions is, Is perimenopause something that can be reversed? I don't know if you've seen any data about this. Like I said, I had my situation, which was obviously caused by medication. When I get off it, I feel like it started to reverse and I started to change my nutrition. I lost the weight that I gained. There was a lot of things that happened. But for the average person who's actually starting to go through perimenopause, is there any way they can reverse this with diet or nutrition or different supplements or HRT?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't seen any studies, but knowing what's happening biologically with your body during perimenopause, there are, just like you mentioned, there's ways that you could supplement and support your hormone fluctuations that would extend your fertility if that's the issue. If you're like, I'm 30 and you're telling me I have to have all my kids by the time I'm 45, because then that may not be the case. You may start having these symptoms like you did, and then with seed cycling and cycle syncing and any type of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, HRT, it could extend your fertility window and like erase those symptoms, because symptoms are, it's a message to yourself that something is wrong. Like, we're not supposed to experience pain and inflammation. If you are, something is wrong and your body is telling you. So it's not just something that you are just supposed to deal with. So yes, supplements, and there's seed cycling is like gold. I know it's kind of a catchphrase right now, but that's what I would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
get those
More women are
seeds in.
getting into seed cycling, and I think apps like yours have more information on how to actually do that and the vitamins
Yeah.
that are in them, and just knowing that we can support ourselves through nutrition is so
Mm.
important. So, thank you for all this information. I think this is something that, women in their 30s and especially even in their 20s need to look out for, because whether you like it or not, it is coming for you at
Mhm.
some point. So, you might as well
Mhm.
know what's going on. I saw the statistics, and only 60% of women felt like they were actually prepared for menopause and knew what menopause was in terms of all the symptoms. So it's really important information.
Just education and empowerment. We just encourage everybody to be your own cycle scientist. Know yourself, know your body, and get the support that you need, because you're not supposed to be struggling.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.